Hello everybody and welcome into another LOP gaming video. Today we'll be making a tier list of all of Elden Ring's Legacy dungeons, including the underground areas and some smaller dungeon-like areas. But before we get started, I would like to thank my first subscriber so much for subscribing, and I think we're at 2 now. Since this is a brand new channel, any subscriptions would be greatly appreciated. Now first off, we have Castle Morn. So I think that this is a really good, short, small dungeon, just most people's first one. It's easy, but I think it's meant to be, and its boss fits well with all the misbegotten enemies. And I like how it's aggressive, but not overly hard, since it's going to be one of the first bosses that most people fight. And I really like its aesthetic of the whole area being destroyed because it was all the servants revolted. And I really like how there's still a couple soldiers of Castle Morn defending it still, so you get a bit of NPC versus NPC stuff going on. So overall, I think it's tier B because it does what it's supposed to well to be a good, easy beginner dungeon without trying to make it overly hard. But then again, it doesn't really do anything insane to bring it up to A or S tier. Alright, now we have Stormveil Castle, which I think is instant S tier. It's so big and sprawling, and the first really huge legacy dungeon that anyone will do. Its guardian boss of Morgott is really good, or Margit I think, is really good, and the whole layout as this maze-like design almost, and the aesthetic is amazing. And I love how it gives you the choice to do the long, sprawling, tunnel-like area to get to it, or you can charge in head-on and take the main gates, but I don't think anyone would do that since it's so tightly guarded. And also the grafting room, which disgusting, also helps make it feel more gruesome and a scary area. And then the boss of Godric the Grafted is really cool. He fits in really well with his wind attacks, and his second form transition is so cool where he grafts a dragon head onto him. So all those things combined, I really think makes it instant S tier. Next, we have Caria Manor. So this one's kind of like the Castle Morn of Liurnia, and I think that it's kind of too short to really warrant S tier. It does what it's supposed to good, and Loretta is a fun boss at the end, but then again, you fight her again in the Halig Tree, so I don't think it really is insane. It's just a fun little short dungeon to do before the Academy of Raya Lucaria, so I think it's B tier. Okay, so now we have Academy of Raya Lucaria. So I think that this is a good follow-up dungeon to Stormveil Castle. It's kind of like evil Hogwarts, and it has a really cool aesthetic with the Academy library design, and the enemies fit in pretty well for the most part. I think that the halfway boss of the Red Wolf of Radagon is a fun boss, but it really is kind of really short. But then the Renala boss, once again, I think that she's a little bit overrated. The first form is just a puzzle boss, which I don't love, and then the second form is it's just a spellcaster with gank summons, so I think it's good, but not crazy insane, so maybe like A tier, low A tier, once we get some other people in there. But a good dungeon, but the bosses are a little average. Okay, so now we have Redmane Castle, which I think probably has the best boss in Elden Ring. So I think Radahn is probably the best boss in Elden Ring, maybe beat by Morgott, the Fel Omen King. But the dungeon itself is kind of non-existent. If you're doing the festival, which I think most people do, you'll just go in there, meet a bunch of people in that room, and they'll join up with you to fight Radahn. You'll get a short cutscene, and then you ride an elevator down, and then you're to the boss fight. So the actual dungeon is non-existent. I can't say it's bad because there's nothing to say that it's bad about. But if you do go to it without the festival, I think it makes the dungeon a lot better, but the boss a lot worse because you're not having a huge festival spectacle with it. But if you go there without the festival, it's this huge, highly protected, just insane blitz until the boss fight, which is the Radahn. So I think it's a amazing boss, and depending on when you do it, a good dungeon. So But since most people will be fighting it when it's pretty lackluster dungeon, I think I really have to put it down in D tier, unfortunately, even though I love the boss. So next is Nokron Eternal City, and this is a bit of a hot take, but I think that the underground areas are kind of mid. I think they all blend together quite a bit, and the design is cool, but it's just not exactly, I don't love it. So, Nokron, I think, as I said, they blend together, but I think that Nokron's the one with the Mimic Tier and the Stag boss fight, which both too easy. There's some good loot to be found down here, but as an actual dungeon, I don't really love it. I think this one's C tier. And now we have Noxtel Eternal City. Most of the things that I said back there apply to this one, though this one has a better boss. I think that you fight Estelle down here. Yeah, because this is connected to the Lake of Rot with Siofra River, too. So, correct me if I'm wrong, though. I might be wrong. But I think that this one's better than Nokron, but I think it's still not insane. So it's going to be in C tier and right in front of Nokron. And now, to cap off the Liurnia dungeons, we have the Runestrewn Precipice, which is honestly just a glorified mine. Now, if this was a mine ranking video, it would be S tier for sure. The actual design of it is pretty fun, like walking along the cliffside, but its boss is just another magma worm. You fight them as a normal enemy in Volcano Manor, and there's just so many of them. So that kind of loses their specialty. And it doesn't have any unique enemies. It's just a good tunnel, but a bad dungeon. So probably D tier in front of Redmane Castle. Okay, so now we have the Shaded Castle, which is like the Castle Morn and Caria Manor of Landale. So I think that this one is a bit unique compared to those ones. It has a fun design with all the poison and zombies and perfumers, but the dungeon itself is kind of short. Its boss is insane. It's like a Jedi fight almost, with his glowing sword, and he swings it around with telepathic abilities. So very fun boss, though short dungeon, but nothing too bad about it. Though it does have some really annoying enemies, like the Royal Revenant. That one room with the Royal Revenant and all the spellcasters is just kind of impossible to fight at that point in the game. And all of the Melania's Knights, I forget what they're called, but they get pretty annoying too. So I think fun dungeon, but with some annoying enemies and a good boss, probably C tier, right below Nokron. Next, we have Volcano Manor. I love this one. This one's so fun. So, its design is really cool. This lava city, they call it the prison town, because all the people were like trapped in there by Rykard, and you see a ton of corpses. He's like, really shows him as a great villain, because he just really shows him as being this really evil guy. The enemies with the snake guys, completely unique to that area. The Godskin Noble boss fight is pretty fun. I think it fits in there well, and you haven't seen him that much at this point in the game, so I think he's pretty fun when you do this dungeon. And the boss of Rykard is amazing. It's such a cool, like, spectacle fight, but it's still hard. It's a spectacle fight with some difficulty too, which I really think makes it just really amazing. So I think I'm tempted to put it in S tier. Yeah, we'll put it in S tier. We'll see if it gets beaten out by some others later. Okay, now to cap off the Landale dungeons, we have the Royal Capital. Now, I think you all are expecting this instant S tier, probably the best dungeon in the game. First off, it's massive. It's huge. There's so many knight guys to fight in it, and it's just this huge city. It has the what's it called? That sewer place beneath it, which is cool. And the sewer place keeps on getting bigger and bigger, because you get down to the Moog boss fight, you fight him, you think he's dead, but then if you go back to the end, to the back of his boss fight arena, you find this like crypt full of all the dead merchants, and then you keep on going, and then you find this the three fingers. If you keep on exploring that, it's just ever growing, which I think applies to the rest of the capital too. It just is such this massive cool area. The mid boss of what was his name? Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, was a cool precursor to the big boss fight near the end of the game. And then, as I alluded to in my Stormvale Castle points, I think that Morgott, the last of all kings, is my favorite boss fight. The cutscene leading up to it is magnificent, and the actual boss fight is so just amazing. Like, he's the first boss that you fight in the game, and well, not the exactly first, but one of the first. So he really is shown as the main villain up until the point where you defeat him and you find out that it's not him. But he is just such a cool and amazing villain for the first half of the game. So all of that together makes Lendel probably the best dungeon in the entire game. Okay, so now we have Castle Sol. I'm not gonna lie, I kinda hate this one. So, at this point in the game, you will already have seen most of the little mini forts across the lands between. So you're expecting something a little unique from the dungeons at this point, and this one really does not deliver. It's just another generic castle, but it's snowy, and the enemies inside are just like animals, or sometimes there'll be these little ghost guys. But what about the boss? It's probably my least favorite boss in the entire game. Commander Nile summons little people to help him out, which is annoying as a gank battle, and his moves are just so huge and so quick for just a normal guy. I just really hate this in general, and I think this is going to be our first F tier one. Okay, so now we have Mogwin Palace. Now, this is a really cool dungeon. It's kind of short, but that's okay as long as it's good. That's fine. So its boss is Moog the Lord of Blood. He is really cool boss fight. He has a really cool design. He has pretty good build up, and I love the whole area of the temple where you're going up the ledge and there's all the zombie guys that aren't attacking you, to really just show how torturous he is, and they're so tortured that they don't even want to attack. They're so weakened. So that's a cool add-in, and this also has the two greatest rune farming techniques, in the entire game. So that altogether makes it a pretty good dungeon. I think it's better than Academy of Raya Lucaria. Jeez, I can't speak today. But it's not quite S tier. Alright, Crumbling Fair Missoula. So this is really endgame territory now. This is probably the biggest dungeon on the list, actually. And this one is massive. It's a very long, very well telegraphed area. The enemies, the dog guys, I really like fighting. I think that they're cool. The dragons are fun for a while. They get a little bit old, but that's fine. It has three pretty good bosses. Well, two good bosses, and one terrible boss. So the first boss that you fight is the terrible one, Godskin Duo. I have no idea what FromSoft was thinking when they made this. So it's a gank battle between the Godskin Noble and the Godskin, the Godskin Apostle. And, it's not that bad if it was just fighting two of them, but no. You have to fight each of them about 3 times, because they both share the same health bar, but they'll respawn until all of their health is depleted. Terrible boss fight, and I don't think anyone's gonna disagree on that point. Next is probably Dragon Lord Placidusax, which is a really cool boss fight. It has the best arena in the game, in my opinion, and it's a pretty fun dragon boss fight. It's pretty unique as far as dragon boss fights go. So, I think that, and then we have, lastly, it's the final boss of this area is what's his name? It's I can't remember his name. Malekith, which is a fun fun dog. It's an evolution of the dog enemies, and it's a really fun boss fight. The first phase is kind of mid, but then the second phase is amazing. So it's either going to be he kills you instantly or you kill him pretty quickly, because you both have pretty weak health and both deal massive damage for this boss fight. So an overall great dungeon, probably the biggest one in the game, but not quite S tier, I think, because the God's Gandua really brings it down a lot. So finally, we have Mikola's Hailing Tree / Elphael. This, I think, is a really fun dungeon. I really like its design. I really like its mid-boss, and I think that the boss of it is good, but not quite as good as most people think. Melania, I think, is a little overrated. Maybe most people just really like her because she's the hardest FromSoft boss ever, but not bad, just not as insane as I think some people say. So the first part is going down the branches of the Helig Tree, which is pretty cool. The platforming there, and then the final part where there's that giant like marshmallow guy shooting bubbles at you is pretty cool. And then you reach Elphael, which is like this Lorien from Lord of the Rings, like treehouse village, which looks really cool. And at the very end of it is what's her name? The boss of Caria Manor. Well, you know what I'm talking about. The real version of her. I think it's Loretta. That's a cool boss fight. And then you reach the second part of Elphael, the like more castle-like area with all of the soldiers of Melania. I like that area probably the most. I really like its like golden castle design, and the enemies there are pretty fun too. And then at the very end, you reach the swamp forest area, and you fight Melania in there. And Melania, as I said, she's probably the hardest FromSoft boss ever, and I think that she's fun when you beat her, but more times than not, you'll be dying to her. She's a really tough boss. Her lifesteal ability is really annoying in her second form. She has 2 full health bars, which really makes her pretty difficult. So all of that, I think it's probably A tier, better than Mogwin Palace, but a little worse than Crumbling Fairmazilla. So that is my Elden Ring Legacy Dungeon tier list. If you like it, like the video. If you dislike it, tell me what you think I should have done down in the comments. And also, probably the thing that you could do to help me most as a channel is tell me what kind of stuff you'd like to see in the comments, and give me suggestions on what kind of videos you'd like to see, and how to make my videos better. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you in our next video.